And thank you, Linda, for sharing. That's a really cool story, and I remember it from my childhood often. It's one of the ones that really captured my imagination in the Bible. Now, before I go any further this morning, I just want to extend to the congregation just a note that Cheryl Inman is here this morning, and Cheryl's mother died just slightly over a week ago. And Cheryl, are you here? I want you to know that there's a big congregational hug for her. So if you choose Cheryl, give her a big, big hug from our whole community. She had a wonderful mom who passed away just over a week ago, and we've been holding her in our hearts. So if you see Cheryl, give her a hug for us. The other thing I want to say is we've had kind of an advance party going to the Gambia as well. We actually have two contingents of BUC folks heading to the Gambia this year, and we've had a couple of families who wanted to go as a family, and that's the Chant family and the Cox family, and I think they're kind of prepping the way for our group of young people going. So we just got a few slides that they sent us to show us, and they're all ready. So Rick and youth, this is your advance scouting party setting the way, and I'll let you see a few shots of these folks. This is the Chant and the Cox family, and they're meeting with the NSGA program and NSGA community over there, and just having some wonderful experiences and sharing some of our love with them as well. So, okie doke. So our young people have something pretty special to look forward to in terms of meeting up with this whole team over there in just a couple of weeks' time. So it's going to be pretty awesome. Okay. So let's get right to it this morning. How many of you engaged in our experiment last Sunday feel you have anything to report this morning? Put up your hands. I've spoken with some of you who said, I think. Yeah. You got a parking place right away at Costco. Well, last Sunday, for those of you who weren't here, we decided to engage in a little Gideonite kind of exercise. We decided to put God to the test, right? And to see if this reality is actually out there. So, I don't know about you, but I certainly got profound and powerful proof from the divine that the divine is functioning in our lives. And I'm going to share that story with you this morning. Okay? You got it? So here's what happened. I actually began my experiment on the day before the Sunday, because I was writing my talk, right? And as I was writing my talk, I decided to affirm. So here, how many of you weren't here last Sunday? Some of you weren't here. Oh, you can't miss a Sunday at BUC. Then I have to repeat everything from last Sunday, this Sunday. It's a real pain, you know that. You got to be here every Sunday. Anyways, I'm continuing my little Star Wars series, this little based on Star Wars theology, right? And I'm basing it on Pam Grout's book. E², 9 practical do-it-yourself energies that prove thought creates reality, except that I'm calling our series E², Mobilizing Divine Energy to Transform Our Lives, right? And last Sunday, we conducted this little spiritual energy experiment together for all of you who weren't here. We took a page out of Gideon's playbook and decided to put God to the test. And this is what we all did. Everybody stood up last Sunday in church, and we all affirmed this affirmation. Wonderful God, source of all that is, we invite you this morning to bless each of us individually and to bless our community collectively in the next 48 hours to reveal to us absolutely your presence in our lives, so be it, amen. And we all stood up and we went, yes, God. And I can't believe it that more of you haven't. Anyways, so I said that myself powerfully and positively on Saturday when I was writing and putting my last-minute comments on my talk. So that my 48 hours was coming to an end on Monday afternoon. Okay. So Monday morning arrives, and nothing had really happened for me either. And I was getting a little worried and getting a little antsy, and I was thinking, my goodness, maybe I got to give God an extra 24 hours here. Because maybe God's using the Sunday date actually indeed. So then, what I'm about to tell you is no hint of lie, and I've got all sorts of people here to prove it to me. Jennifer Johnson, our new admin assistant and office person here at the church, gets an email on Monday afternoon. And she thinks to herself, oh my goodness, do I send this email to David or not? So this is what she says. She says, I'm not sure if I should send this to you or not, she says. I'm assuming we would not welcome this opportunity. But let me know if you've got other thoughts. And she told me afterwards, Jennifer, is this right? And she had this feeling, nah. And then she thought, and this is the email I got. Okay? Is John here this morning, by the way? I don't think he is, but he might come. Hi. I live in what is called a tiny house. It's a 16 by 8, built on a trailer, which I'm looking to find a place to place it in and to live in it. And I was just wondering if it's something the church would consider to have me on their grounds in exchange for property maintenance. I'm a fully qualified mason with over 20 years experience and have extensive skills in carpentry and most other aspects of construction. Thank you, John. Now, what Jennifer didn't know and hadn't really realized is that our property team at BUC recognizes that Bill, our custodian, is in his final days and he's thinking about retiring. And we've been looking for a potential new custodian to replace Bill. What Jennifer also didn't know is that we've recently had some leaks in this part of the roof that have come down the side of the building that are masonry involved, and we've been thinking, we need somebody who could do some masonry work for us around this place. What Jennifer also didn't know is that the property committee has been discussing for some time that if we were to replace our custodian, it would be really nice to have somebody close to the facility or on the property who could be there, for when there's an emergency and snow shoveling and all that kind of stuff. And what Jennifer also didn't know is that our tenant in the house next door to the church has just moved out, and we need a whole pile of renovation work done on that house. And we were thinking when we do our fundraiser to pay for the roof, which is coming up shortly, just so you all know, are we also going to need to raise money to repair the house next door? Jennifer didn't know any of this stuff, but I knew all of this stuff. And when I saw this email, I said, holy gushmoly. If the universe was going to answer a prayer for me this week, this would have been the absolute perfect response. So our property team has a meeting, actually the next day. And I go to them and I say, this is what happened. And I said, listen, I've contacted this guy. I have no idea if he's a dope dealer, if he's a sex addict, if he's an alcoholic, if he's, who knows what he is, but I'm trusting the divine on this. I'm going to meet with this guy, and I want one of you from our team to meet with me too, to just reaffirm that I'm not off my rocker here, and that this is legit. So Bill Moss, I don't know if Bill's here this morning, he actually goes skeet shooting on Sunday mornings right at this present time, and so he's a pretty grounded guy, right? So he's a great guy. So Bill says, I'll come and join you. So Bill's a real smart guy, so he comes. And so this fella who sent the email shows up. And I don't say a word. I swear to God. Not a word. I don't tell him anything. And so I first of all, I ask him a little bit about himself and who are you and so on and so forth. And he goes into some of the details of his life, and his credentials as a carpenter and a mason all seem absolutely copacetic. And I won't go into all the details about his life because you may find those out sometime, but it's not appropriate. And then I ask him, I say, so now tell me, how on earth did you ever get it into your brain to send us this email? So that what the guy does is he's a carpenter, and he saw somebody driving along with one of these mini homes one day. He's actually divorced, okay, and a few years ago, and he's got four kids, and really neat guy, and he has this bit of a business, and he saw some of these mini homes and was really sort of curious by this mini home concept, and he's actually sold a few, and he built one for himself as well, right? And he's presently living in a motel, but he's been thinking about, I should park this thing somewhere and see so that's what's going on in the background. So I say, how did you ever get the idea to send Bedford United Church this email? And he says, well, I'll tell you what happened. It was a Monday morning, and I was just down at Superstore doing my shopping. He knows nothing about BUC. He's never been here before. He knows nothing about our community. I've just been shopping at Superstore, and I'm driving past the church, and I look up the church, and I think to myself, he says, totally out of the blue, I get this sort of notion in my head, I wonder if a church property would be a good place to park my mini home in exchange for some custodial or carpentry work. Never thought about it before in his life. So I went back to my room and Googled Bedford United Church and just got the email address and whipped off an email. That's what I said. I said, yay, God. I said, just like that. Even Bill is scratching his head like, this is weird. This is totally weird. And then we get into a conversation, more so, and I tell him about what's going on. And it turns out this guy is, generally the custodial type and the carpentry types aren't the types, with all due respect to our carpenters and custodial types here in the congregation, they aren't generally the people whose heads are into quantum physics and into esoteric spirituality, but this guy is. Some of you who have done the Course in Miracles in this place, this guy is a Course in Miracles fan. Some of you know about that. We get into this whole conversation about spirituality. It's amazing. And then I'm still scratching my head, and I say to him, so are you a drug addict? He says, no. I say, are you an alcoholic? Never touch the stuff. I say, so do you have a police record? No. He gives me references. I've actually checked out some of his references. He's a beautiful human being. And I'm going, yes! Now, the property team is going to meet this week, and we're going to have a discussion around this. We're going to talk about this guy, and I have no idea where this is all going to go. But regardless of what goes on here, there's something fishy going on in the state of Denmark here between this circumstance and what we did last Sunday, okay? There's something fishy going on in the state of Denmark around this. So, I felt like Gideon. Put it on a fleece saying, demonstrate your reality to us. And I felt like that fleece was absolutely, this is the oddest kind of thing that could have happened. I felt like this fleece was absolutely answered. So now you're all saying to me, I know what's going on in your brains. Sure, David, but why didn't it happen to me? So I got a couple of ideas around that. One is that, and I'm going to talk about this, and we're going to get into this next week. This whole process of invoking the divine in our lives and putting it out there for the divine requires, one of the ingredients is awareness. And as Jennifer said to me, and as Danielle said to me this week, I was in a heightened state of awareness. Like I was looking for something to happen here, right? So it may be that if I hadn't been in this experiment, I might have actually just dismissed that email as being a little too quirky and off the wall, and we're not going to park a mini house on our property in any case, and this is a crazy idea. But I was tuned in. I had the awareness. I was thinking about this, right? I'm thinking, I don't know. And the second thing is this. If the divine, well, let me put it this way. My need trumped your need this past week. My need trumped your need, right? Because for me to come back to you this Sunday with nothing to report would not have looked good on me at all, right? So I had to have something to report. And the divine knew that and said, we're going to respond, right? So, and maybe what really trumped is that our collective need for a response or a sign, because we invited it to bless us collectively. Maybe it's saying to us, your collective need is actually more important than your individual needs, at least in this moment. Remember what we've been talking about in this whole series, what we're talking about. What we're talking about is that the understanding of God that is emerging in the world today is that God is no longer this old man or old woman up in the sky with gray hair, pulling strings according to our personal whims and wishes. What we're saying is that the reality about God that's emerging in the world today is that God is more like this, what Pam Grout calls the quantum field of potentiality. God is this underlying matrix. We talk about electromagnetic fields that permeate space and time. That God is like this underlying quantum field of infinite potentiality, out of which any possibilities can basically emerge if we have enough trust and belief in it. Now, the difference between the Star Wars notion of God and my understanding of God in this form and fashion, the other analogy, by the way, is that God is like this infinite sea of electricity. We harness electricity to do all sorts of things. It's an invisible force in the universe to turn on lights, to keep us warm, to do all sorts of things. So God is kind of like this power and this energy. But what the Star Wars notion of God says that power and energy can also be mobilized for dark and evil ends. And that's the big challenge for me with the Star Wars kind of notion of this. And here's my understanding. My understanding diverges from the Star Wars understanding of this theological notion of God in that I believe that only a loving heart, an open disposition, a spiritual and compassionate being actually has access to that field. It's only out of a loving heart and out of a truly spiritual disposition that we can access that ultimate power and reality and matrix and energy behind the universe to actually work in our world and to work in our lives. And so what is the secret? So if God isn't this being pulling strings and personally sort of responding to our individual wishes, if the understanding is more that God is this kind of field of potential and power and energy that we can access, what is the secret to accessing that incredible intelligence and force and power? And I think what's emerging in the world today is there's two things. And remember, this is all fun stuff, right? We're exploring this together. So I'm not saying that any of this is the absolute final word on any of this topic, right? So we're all explorers of this matter. But what seems to be emerging in our understanding of God from this perspective is that what enables us to access this incredible power and force and spirit energy, this field of potentiality, the divine FP that Pam Grout calls it, that underlies all of existence, is two things. Well, it's actually three things. First of all, it is a loving and a compassionate and a caring heart, and a desire that this incredible potential and reality be utilized for good. The second thing is awareness. There needs to be And I think this is the evolution of the human race. The evolution of the human race isn't about technological evolution. It's about the evolution of the human awareness and psyche and spirit. And what's going to happen is there needs to be an awareness, a deeper and deeper intuition of this. That this isn't just words. That this is for real. And that when we say this to one another, namaste, the spirit in me honors the spirit in you, that we are actually intuiting and feeling deeply and cognitively convicted of the fact that we do live in a divine, energetic, spiritual matrix out of which all of life comes into being. And that's about awareness. And then the third point that enables us to access that power, that intelligence, that underlying energy is intention. There needs to be a very, very strong intention, a commitment to intention, a very clear intention in our lives, and a commitment not just to sitting back passively and allowing the universe to do it to us, but an intention to work in co-creative partnership with the divine force underneath the universe. So, it's like the people who prayed for rain in the midst of a drought, right? And the shaman said, so next week, come back here and we're all going to pray for rain. And everybody showed up, but nobody had an umbrella, right? There needs to be a deep belief and conviction and trust, and there also needs to be a deep intention to work with the underlying power of the universe to bring into being what it is that we're seeking and what we're hoping for. So, I don't know, but this email I got this week was pretty convincing to me. We'll see how it all shakes down. And regardless of how it shakes down, it's still just fascinating to me. Next week, we're going to talk about the first plank that I was talking about, this business of awareness, and how important awareness is in this process. And Pam Grout suggests this experiment. It's the second of her experiments, the 9 practical do-it-yourself experiments that prove your thoughts create reality. And the second experiment is, she calls it the VW Jetta experiment. Given what Volkswagen's been through in the last few months, I would suggest that we call it the hot pink Mazda experiment. Okay? Make it the hot pink Mazda experiment or your black manly Chevy experiment, right? When you're thinking about buying a new car, right? You're thinking about buying a new car and you maybe haven't paid any attention to this car before, but all of a sudden it's kind of in your brain and you're thinking, I wonder if I should get this new car or not. What starts to happen? You start to see them everywhere. You start to see them everywhere. And you spontaneously find yourself getting into conversations with people who have them. And you start getting emails from companies that are trying to sell you one and are sending you the specs on the vehicles. It's amazing how all of a sudden, what you didn't realize is out there, all of a sudden is out there everywhere. It's just a matter of bringing awareness to the possibility, to the potentiality for this certain kind of thing that you're looking for in your life. So this week, your mission, should you choose to accept it, is think about something that you're needing or you're interested in, and just make your own personal intention once again. Show it to me. Show me what it is I need this week to help me make whatever decision or to enlighten me about something or other. Even write it down at the beginning of the week. This is my intention. This is what I need to look for this week. This is what I need to see this week. And then just watch how stuff starts to flow into your life. Reality, what this whole new understanding of God is suggesting, is that reality is an infinite reservoir of possibility and potentiality. And we simply don't access it because our awareness and the clarity of our intention isn't strong enough to really bring it into being. But when we can, and we'll get into conversations as we go on, that circumstances We all have circumstances in our lives that are challenging and difficult, and I know this is the big question, that seem to override this capacity to pull health and healing and wellness, the potentiality, the possibilities out of this field of potentiality. You gotta have feet on the ground and head and heart in the sky, is what I always say, right? That's what it means to be an embodied human being, an expression of spirit in space and time and form. This is not a flaky kind of, just sit back and say, God, make it all happen for me. It ain't gonna happen that way. It's about a partnership with this divine reality, and it's a learning to utilize it and to engage it in our lives. And we haven't trained to do that. If our kids were trained to do that from their early childhood, maybe the world would be a different place. So check it out this week. Try that. Check out the VW Jetta experiment. Look for what it is you're looking for and see how things start to emerge in your life. Say it with conviction. You may not be feeling it with conviction towards me this morning, but say it with conviction nonetheless. Spirit in me honors the Spirit in you. Amen.
It's time to prepare our hearts and our minds to receive the meal of Jesus, which I would describe as a meal of love. So we're going to sing a song that describes what that Christian love looks like and how we might live it. And I'd like to thank Nick Fieldsen for singing a solo in this piece.
And striving so